Today we're going to be taking a break from our usual fare and going to be doing something we haven't done in a good while, and that is to take a look at a Games Workshop kit, specifically the Imperial Knight Warden. Now, before I begin, one thing I need to make note here and now is that about 90 to 95% of this kit is exactly the same as the earlier released basic Imperial Knight. So if you're wondering what the difference is, truth be told, there's not a lot. Mainly, the big difference being the weapons that are supplied with this kit, having additional ones, including the back-mounted launchers and a couple others. So if you're looking at getting this kit, I'm going to say right up front, and get this one over the basic Knight. In fact, I don't even know if they still produce the basic Knight. I think they've gone to just producing this one. So let's get into it. Now, right away, the first impression you're going to get with this kit is just how big it is. As you can see here, on this first main sprue, we have the majority of the parts that go to the armor for the back and upper body, including this massive single piece cast for the back shell, which again gives you a good idea of just the scale and how big it is. Another thing to note is there is a lot of detail in these various armor pieces. I would say probably the most comparable would be something like early Renaissance period plate armor, as I think to some degree that's what they were going for with this. So obviously this is going to make masking be on the more difficult side if you're going to obviously airbrush, which given the size of this kit is something you're definitely going to want to look at doing as opposed to brush painting, just because of just the sheer size of it. Yeah, but I mean, I do like the detailing. It's something nice to see. Continuing on, we have some more mechanicals of the kit seen here in these close-ups, as there's a lot of piping and wiring and detailing that goes in, which is all great to see included. We've got a couple little detail parts here, at least on this sprue. Not a lot to go on this one, but some. We also have the exhaust stacks, which again, sort of give it that mix of old and new in terms of just the design. Next up, we got a couple of parts for the weapons and other odds and end parts, as well as some of the parts for the hip area, as well as two of the face masks, which again is another point of detail that really gives this kit its unique look. We also have the very large chainsword, as again, if you've played 40k, you know the little ones are usually about that big for a little figure. This one's about 3 to 4 times that size. We also got a couple of the cannons that go for it on this sprue, and the shield guards for them. Overall, a lot of detail going into this particular kit. Now, if you didn't think this kit was massive before, these feet parts will definitely sort of solidify that for you, as these are big. In fact, I think, if I recall correctly from scale, a Space Marine Dreadnought takes up about the inner circle here in terms of size. So basically it's the same foot, but a lot smaller. Continuing on, we've got the actual hip joints, which are done in such a way that it would be on the easy side to actually get magnets in there if you wanted to have yours on the more easily disassembled side, as I do know that once this thing gets built, it's going to be very difficult to port it around. We've got banner that hangs under the waist, a couple more armor pieces here and here for the legs, and the bulk of the legs themselves. Again, a lot of fine detailing in here. Couple odds and ends parts that are going to make assembly a little challenging, as you're going to need to make sure you get those on. We also have one of the shields that goes for the kit. Again, very nice and a lot of detail. Now, the last sprue has some more weapons as well as the autocannon, which you can see here. Two of the anti-air cannons that go in one of the back mount options, and a couple other odds and end parts that go to the weapons. Another shield with different options for the shield, a few more face options there, and yeah, the last sort of odds and ends and details that go to this kit. Again, there's a lot to it, as yeah, they give you a lot of options with this particular boxing. Last but not least, we have our base. Again, this is something I think opens a lot of avenues for custom detailing, and yeah, I think it was smart for them to include a completely blank base. Excuse me. Now let me get these packed back in, and we'll move on to the decals. Now, the decals for this kit include about 5 or 6 different options for pre-supplied ones, and obviously you can use them to create a custom unit. This is where I do find some fault with this kit, is why it's great to have all of these different house markings. I would have liked to have seen more option decals, different colors, whatnot, so that allowed more opportunity for people to go in and do their own custom units. Obviously, you can still scan them in and do it that way, but it would have been nice to have those out of the box. It's something they might do later, as I would think that'd be a way to open up more possibilities. Moving on to the instructions. Now, one thing I like that they did here was that they listed the different variants up front and the different steps you're going to need to use to build those particular variants. I like that. That was a nice inclusion. Digging into it, you can see that there's a lot to the assembly of this kit. This is not a quick, shake and bake kit. It's going to take a lot of time to do and do correctly, especially if you're planning on painting it. Do like that they use the CAD drawings for the assembly, as it does make it a lot easier to understand the different assembly steps, what goes into each, and how all the parts fit together. Again, already basically taking a full page just to do the legs. If you've had any experience building Gunpla, typically you'd have maybe half this page just for the legs. Instead, we're up to one full back to front page. Again, much the same can be said with the center torso, as there's a lot of small details that are going to take to put this thing together, and more importantly, it's a lot of steps that have to be done in a certain order, or else things aren't going to go together. And not only that, there's some parts that simply are going to need to go together without glue so you don't, goof up. Again, we can see here all the various face options together in one place, as well as some of the weapon options for the back. I mean, definitely a kit if you're prepared to, sit down and do a lot of work. It'll pay off, and then some, as it'll build up to a really showcase-worthy piece. Next up, we've got the assembly instructions for the different weapons, and it's basically broken down into the different variants that you're doing, which again simplifies it a little. Would have been nice if they did a little differently in terms of the organization of it in the manual, but I do like it. I'm going to skip forward a little here, as there's not a whole lot to do here, as it's just more how to do different weapon systems. In fact, they're actually a little redundant in a couple places, as they show you how to do it multiple times. So, that being said, we move on to the implied options as far as basically what they have suggested for ideas. Now, excuse me. Again, this is where we can easily see just how much options you have with this kit, as there's various paint schemes and just ways you can do it. One thing I do like is that they've included a cutout of the decal sheet highlighting the ones you're going to need for them, which is a nice inclusion and does simplify it a little, as it shows you where they are and you can very easily quick reference it. So yeah, paint callouts for this kit are obviously in the Games Workshop's own Citadel paints, so you'll probably have to, if you're going to use something else, fudge around till you find the right sort of color to match what you want to do. But again, that's part of the fun of doing these, as it's very much your own way to do it. They give you that much in way of options. So yeah, overall, a fantastic kit. I cannot recommend this one enough, with the one caveat that it is overpriced. I picked this up, base price, at least where I am, was about $120. This is not a cheap kit. I would in no way, shape, or form recommend it to somebody who's new to the hobby, or I would say just sort of expanding their skills. Don't do it on this kit. It's too expensive. And as much as I want to say, go for it, not on this one. It's just too expensive to goof up. But if you are confident in your skills, you are more seasoned, definitely grab this one, even if you're not a 4K player. This one, just as far as pure display piece, is just too epic to not consider. So yeah, that was a look at Games Workshop's Imperial Knight Warden kit. Again, a lot of what I've said here is carried over to the earlier released Imperial Knight kit, as they're about 90 to 95% the same kit. If you had to choose between the two, I would say go with this one, simply because you get more in the box, and there's not that much of a difference in price, as I actually own one of the earlier Imperial Knights, as I got when it first came out. And yeah, definitely go with this one, as the options that it includes are definitely worth a little bit of extra fee. Granted, probably not going to find the Imperial Knight anymore, as I don't even think they're producing it anymore, as they've gone completely over to the Warden. But yeah, definitely a kit to look at getting, regardless of if you're a 40k player. Until next time.